What's up everyone, Dylan Wills here. Today I'll be reviewing The House That Jack Built. It's directed by Lars von Trier, and this movie is basically about a serial killer played by Matt Dillon, and it's like a portrait of this deranged serial killer, and it's told in a different way. And I was pretty pumped to see this. I heard a lot of mixed feelings about this movie before going in to see it. I heard that a few people left their screenings at a film festival because it was too disturbing to watch. And I also heard that this movie got a standing ovation at one of its screenings, so I was curious. And Lars von Trier's directing, and I'm a fan of some of his work, so yeah, I was pretty pumped for this movie, and I saw this movie at the Brisbane International Film Festival. And first of all, this movie is a bit of an oddball. Like, there's a lot I loved about this movie, but there's also some stuff that I didn't really like. Like, some stuff worked, and then some other stuff didn't quite work. I won't get into too much with this film, I don't want to spoil anything for you guys, but as for the people that left their screenings due to the movie being a bit too disturbing to watch, I can understand that. Because there's some stuff in the film, there's some themes depicted and some gory scenes that might be a bit too much for viewers. Because there were a few people that left my screening during a very uncomfortable scene in the movie, but there were also a few others that left during some uneventful moments in the movie, so I feel like they might have left because the movie was becoming a bit too tedious. And I can understand all of that, because while I found the film to be enjoyable, there are a few parts that come off a bit tedious. Like, it has these voiceover narration scenes that are very exposition heavy, and they have these references, and it plays out like a therapy session. And sometimes it works to get us into the mind of this killer and to get into the themes of the movie, but sometimes it just doesn't really work and it just becomes tedious and it drags. But the finale of this film is where I think it'll completely lose people, because it gets ridiculous. Like, it's very symbolic. I wasn't the biggest fan of the finale. I did like the symbolism behind what was going on in the finale, but it's just so ridiculously out of place, and yeah, I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. I preferred when the movie was focusing on the serial killer stuff and the themes in those moments. It was funny, it was hectic, it was brutal, and it painted the perfect picture of what was going on with this killer. Matt Dillon delivers such an amazing performance as this killer. He's charming, he's creepy, he's funny, and yeah, there's just so much there to unpack with his character, and his performance is just so good. And this is like a portrait of a serial killer, and it's directed as if it's a documentary. Like, it tells the story through each murder that had a pivotal moment in the killer's life, like what he thinks is his best work. And while each incident ends, it gives us a bit of insight into this evil guy and how he works. It has a bit of an unpredictability to it, and you don't really know what direction the movie is going to go in. The movie depicts these particular themes that might be a bit offensive to you or a bit uncomfortable. It just depends on your reaction to this sort of stuff, I guess. But yeah, there's stuff in this film that the movie, the director really nails down on. He nails down on stuff like toxic masculinity, misogyny, Americanism, narcissism, sadism, and so on and so on. And maybe the movie is a reflection of the director's work over the years. Maybe that's a hint. Who knows? But this is the thing, right? If you get offended during this movie, or you feel uncomfortable in this film, then you've already lost the game, because it feels like this movie was basically made to trigger you. And the gory scenes I thought were pretty damn graphic, but I really loved it. Like, if you're not a fan of that stuff, then you won't like this, because the director doesn't hold any punches here. I found them to be brutally awesome. But the thing I found surprising in this movie was how funny it was. Like, there's these dark comedy elements to it, and if you have a dark sense of humor, then this movie would tick all of those boxes off for you, because it is pretty funny. Like, I was laughing my head off, while others were probably thinking, this is fucked. There's some stuff in this film that I feel like could have been shortened down or could have been completely removed, because the movie goes for over 2.5 hours, I'm pretty sure, and you can feel it, because there are some stuff that drags, and As I said before, I enjoyed this movie. It's just, there are a few parts that felt very tedious and it just dragged. And most of it had to do with the narration scenes with all of these little references and, linking everything together with these metaphors, and it just drags sometimes. Like, it feels like the director was more focused on creating metaphors and themes and also focusing on these little references throughout the movie that it didn't really get back into the groove of its own story. Because we are constantly going to these references from historical moments, psychological ideas, philosophical ideas, and it just sometimes it drags the film down and it doesn't quite get back into the groove of the story till much later. So yeah, besides a few parts of the film that were a bit tedious and the finale feeling a bit out of place, I did enjoy the movie. I enjoyed the gory aspects of the film and I enjoyed the dark comedy elements while we dive deep into the mind of this serial killer and how he works. And this movie is not going to be for everyone, I can definitely tell you that, and I really mean that. I'm going to give The House That Jack Built a B. Okie dokie, guacamole, let me know what you guys thought about the movie down in the comments, I'd love to hear it. And if you guys like this video and you want to see more, click subscribe and I'll see you later.